Yeah, she's here, yeah.
Okay, fine. All right.
All right. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I think I got bronchitis again.
Oh, I got antibiotics.
Not yet. I'm gonna go after we're done
All
here.
right, good morning, everyone. I want to call the December 10th
Thing for me in the wintertime.
County Council meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start with the auditor's report.
Okay.
All yours.
We began 2019 with a general fund cash balance of $10,224,887.37, with projected miscellaneous revenue and property tax, our total available is $58,639,082.37. When you deduct the encumbrances, the budget, the minimum balance, and add in our estimated unused general fund budget, our net beginning balance was $1,876,533.37. So far this year, we have granted $399,452 of a general fund appropriations, with $84.57 in reductions, give us a beginning or a balance as of right now of $1,485,264.69. There are no additional appropriation requests for the general fund today, in that those have to be approved by the state, and there's really not time, so we don't generally ever do appropriations in the month of December. We move on to the next page is the revenue report. The first section there in taxes, and a lot of this is going to change in the month of December. Obviously, property tax, we did just receive financial institutions tax, the 0124, and also the commercial vehicle excise tax, the 0131, so those will be brought up to the 100% level. Excise tax will be done at settlement time, so that should bring that up to over 100%, probably. Down into some of the other sections, I think we're doing fairly decently. Some are going to be over the estimates, and a few of them are going to be under where we were estimating that to be. And just go through the other things. I'm not sure that I really had anything of note in any of the revenues, as November is a little bit more of a quiet month for activity in postings. So we are at 76%, but just property taxes will bring that up a lot. Getting to the fund balances, the general fund, we are under the minimum balance, the $7.5 million minimum balance at $609,000. But again, that will be brought up by the end of the year, is what we're really looking the minimum balance to be. The 1138, that's cum cap, and I want to talk about this at the end of the meeting. We did appropriate more in cum cap than what the DLGF approved, so we have to reduce that down, and talked to Dave Byers yesterday, and we've got a couple of changes to get down to what the DLGF is requiring that to be. 1167, a levy excess. We were just ordered to put some money in there. There's a new thing that we're only doing just for 2019, a heavy equipment excise. There was some things that were moved. Heavy equipment rental was moved from property tax to excise tax. And when those were paid this year, we were told to put that into the levy excess fund. And I think the reason for that is that people paid property tax on it this year for 2018, paid 19, and then they also paid excise tax. So they paid twice. So we were told to put it into levy excess, and at some point, I would assume when we get the budget next year, when we get the order, we'll be told to move that around, but we haven't got anything there yet. The next fund that I thought I had, 4710, is the health insurance fund. Last month that went down just a tad, and this month it made up for that and went up almost $500,000. So we are getting close to $8.8 million on that fund. The revolving fund,
But we're going to be taking money out of it next year, right? So that'll go down a little bit?
Well, yes.
We budgeted.
Now, this year, I think we gained well over $2 million. So if we take the $1 million out, that's going to be taken care of that way. Now, let me just jump through. Then we go to 4931, which is the solid waste levy excess. And again, that's the same thing. That has a property tax rate. So we have some money that we got from that heavy equipment that we will move down into there. And at some point, that will go back up into their budget when we are so ordered to do so. One other one that I didn't mark on here was Fund 6203, the lit public safety property tax. This is money we get every month from the state from income taxes. And then we do transfer this money from this fund. We give it over to the treasurer, and then they run it through their collection process by tax unit, and it comes back over for distribution. So that $3.8 million that we distributed in November, that is going to be property taxes, because that all belongs to the units.
Right, that's not public safety, though.
Or did I say public safety?
Yes, you did.
Okay, it is, there's just property tax relief.
Right.
Not public safety on the brain, I guess, but
I thought so.
I think that is all I've got. If there's any questions. And I got busy. I didn't do my little 4 highlighted funds this month, so I'll work on those during detention time or something, so.
That mean you
Thanks,
have to do 8
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Bob? Jennifer, treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Just reading the minutes, I'll thank Bob for covering for me last month. Your meeting was on the property tax collection day, and so with the elevator out, we ended up setting up some stations down here in the hallway, and I think that worked out pretty well under the circumstances. We had a lot of compliments about that, so. It was collection day, and we are through that and have passed the money over to Bob for settlement, and I believe he's working on that already. For interest for November, we had $268,247.19. As you can see, our rate is down to 1.85%. This was after 3 cuts this year to the Fed funds rate, and it's at the level it was of March 2018. I am still estimating, though, we're at, I believe it's 98.8% currently of what my revised budget estimate was for the general fund of $1.3 million in interest. So I think we'll come in okay there. The last page is just some updates I wanted to share. Being at the end of the year, these are just some things that I track. Our property tax collection rates, which spring is always a little bit higher than the fall, but have been in line for the past 5 years. Staley Credit Union collections were up this year, so they are reaching out to people, and people are utilizing that service. In particular, I think it's beneficial on the days that we're closed, such as Veterans Day. And online payments increased again pretty significantly in terms of transactions and dollars, so I was happy with that. Interest I've talked about, and then as far as P cards, just an update there. We've increased from 32 initial cards issued to 51, and average about $30,000 a month on the credit cards. So that's going well. We've worked through some issues this year. The departments pay their P cards into a fund, and then we pay the bank out of that fund. And occasionally that fund has been negative, and so there have been 4 times out of the 9 months that we've been doing that. So I really want to encourage department heads to make sure that those are getting processed in a timely manner. I think we've got our processes figured out, and we're sitting at like 4,100 in that fund right now. So other than that, I don't have anything else. Any questions about any of that?
Do you have a theory on why the property tax collection rates are going up year after year?
I think the economy has gotten better.
Okay.
I was looking at it this year in particular, thinking, oh, maybe with the rate decline and, just some questions about it, maybe, it would have been down, but I don't think it's going to go up any more than that. I think that's really
Okay.
about
It's
where
something
we're
that
gonna
we're
be.
doing differently, do you think, or?
We've always done courtesy letters, and we have tax sale, to
Okay.
fall back on, so it's just, I think that's pretty consistent. I just wanted to track it and make sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There are some things that we're not billing anymore. The personal property, some of the low assessment, and that's low assessment, so it's be low taxes. Maybe that wouldn't affect the percentage much, but
The business personal
yeah.
exemptions.
If you're under the 20,000 and that's supposed to go up, I think, but that could alter that a little bit because those would be more likely to not get paid and to go to judgment too.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you. At this time, is there any public comment on today's agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Okay. Are there any items that anyone sees that needs to be removed from the consent agenda?
I would just request that for the $60,000 grant appropriation from Community Correction, if we could get some explanation on the grant.
What are you saying?
The $60,000, he's coming up.
Okay, well, first, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Jason, good morning.
This is a grant that we received from the Indiana State Department of Health. It's basically going to go towards supplementing our COAC pretrial program. So we were awarded the $60,000. You can see how it's going to be laid out for counseling consultants. So those that in the program that can't afford insurance, or I'm sorry, can't afford to be seen by mental health professionals, that we have those funds to be able to supplement that, as well as bringing in some classes and offering some services inside community corrections for those on the pretrial program. And then everything else, the travel and training and professional services will all go for some community outreach as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Jason. Any other questions, comments? If not, we have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, seconded by Councilman Winger, to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Our first additional appropriation, Superior Court 2.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the appropriation from Jury Pay Fund 2584 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilwoman Dullum, to approve the Jury Pay Fund 2584 appropriation for jury expenses for $5,000. Any discussion?
I don't believe anyone's here from 2, but we, this year, anticipating some higher jury expenses in a number of the courts, including 2. There's a healthy balance in jury expense. We plan to appropriate, we budgeted, I think, $10,000 out of jury pay for Superior 2 for 2020. So as he indicated on the request, this is in anticipation for 3 jury trials before the end of the year. So we recommend approval.
All right. Any questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Tippecanoe County Solid Waste Management District, Mr. Murtaugh.
Good morning.
Do we
we need a motion.
Yes, please.
Mr. President, I move to approve the Tippecanoe County Solid Waste District Operation Fund 4930 appropriation for $80,000 as presented.
Second.
Good morning. This is, we talked a little bit about this during budget hearings. If you recall, we did put in the 2020 budget, I think $70,000 for meet. Am I correct in the figure, Bob?
I think so.
It was, I think it was 70. This is the first time we've ever done that to help supplement the recycling effort and hazardous waste collection effort. There's been significant changes in that world, not only locally with the closure of the West Lafayette location and the relocation of the main hub down at the trash transfer station on North 9th Street, but also in the recycling world in general with a lot of recycling facilities in the states being closed and international recycling facilities not taking materials due to issues going on at the federal government. Recycling is at an all-time, or I should say the revenue from recycling is at an all-time low, and the cost for doing so is at an all-time high. So we have faced some pretty significant increases within the recycling effort. We do have fairly significant cash reserves within the solid waste district, in which we're asking for this additional appropriation from to cover this year's expenses, and then next year's expenses should be covered by supplemental from the EDIT budget. This did go through the solid waste district board, 10 days ago, and approved there. And so we're asking for your approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Murtaugh? If not, we have a motion from Councilwoman Stonebreaker, seconded by Councilman Underwood, to approve the Tippecanoe County Solid Waste Management District Operation Fund 4930 appropriation for professional services for $80,000. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Commissioners, Mr. Byers.
Mr. President, I move to approve the FG Construction Bond Fund 4818 appropriation for $4,600,000 as presented.
Second.
That's a lot of money.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Stonebreaker, seconded by Councilman Underwood, to approve the Fairgrounds Construction Bond Fund 4818 appropriation for construction and related expenses for $4.6 million.
We sat down and talked with Tecton, and we dig out our cash flow, figure exactly what they're going to need to spend for next year. This will give us basically 6 months, and then we're going to come back and ask for pretty much the exact same amount to get through the next 6 months. We're trying to hold it in there as long as we can so we can collect as much interest as we possibly can. So really, it's just a matter of appropriating the bond and keeping the project moving. If you really want to see something today, go out there today, because they got 2 cranes out there and they're putting the roofs up on the Coliseum. So it's going to be kind of impressive what's going on.
Steel has started to rise out of the ground.
It is. So.
Right. Any questions? We have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Committee reports. Hearing none. New or unfinished business. We have council assignments that were in your packets. And I haven't heard from anyone about requested changes in terms of council member appointments. So we will sub in a name for Alana when we know who that person is. And then the others will remain the same, I guess. Other appointments, we had a list there that was highlighted that had terms that were expiring, and I made contacts with those organizations that are affected there, and they're all, with 2 exceptions, they're all reappointments. I guess the Audubon Library, there's a form in your packet there, and that is actually a reappointment. Parks Board and Tippecanoe County Public Library, both of those have asked for those people to be reappointed. There is one other. I received a note from West Lafayette Public Library director, and that's the last one on our list, and we don't show it on our list as a expiring term, and actually we have the wrong name on there. Brian Hubbard was replaced by someone else whose name I've forgotten, Susan Curtis, I'm sorry, and she's actually leaving Purdue and leaving town at the end of the month. So she's not available for reappointment, and they have asked that John Myers be our appointment to the West Lafayette Public Library Board. So that's where we're at on those. So Any questions or do we need to take any real action on those?
You gonna do that, you do that in the January meeting, or?
Why wouldn't we do it now?
Okay.
January or February.
So we'll do this in January? Okay. Anyway, that's where we're at this point on those. The other changes, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Bob Mindrum retired sometime this year, and the hotel rep is now Rich Gazelli from HTM. Am I pronouncing that right, Kathy?
Gazelli.
Gazelli, okay. From HTM is the new hotel rep. And so that's where that list is. And meeting list, also in your packet, is the, in terms of our meetings, it's the second Tuesday mornings, pretty much the same schedule as we had in 2019. And budget hearings schedule are at the bottom as well.
Mr. Chair, just a question of clarification.
Yes.
I have absolutely no problem with any of the names that have been listed or suggested for these board seats for our appointments. But how is the process working? I think we need to be reminded that these are our appointments, and receiving recommendations from the boards, I think, is advisable. But
Right.
I would just encourage us, I haven't given it thought, but if we have other names that we feel would be good on each of these boards, I think that would be a process we'd want to keep in mind.
Okay. All right.
Do you want any of them notified and brought in to talk to them next month?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You know, I just
I mean,
think
if you do,
Right.
let us
when
know.
we know we have openings, it's our job
Yeah.
to appoint, and therefore it should be our job to consider who might be good.
Right.
Yeah, like maybe like a November type of call type of thing, and then, ask if people are willing to serve, but if there's other people who want to serve as well. Is that kind of like so then we're thinking through, because I agree, it is like a county council appointment, right? And as much as
It
we want
is,
them to have
it is an
people good.
appointment. I think traditionally, we have taken the recommendations of those boards, especially when they're reappointments, and when they're specialty things like a hotel rep or the travel rep, or, those kinds of things for Convention and Visitors Bureau, those have to be people from those industries, and they tend to, they do that and ask for our blessing in the past. And we haven't done that. I don't disagree, Roland, that's, you're right, it is our appointments, but we haven't done that way in the past. If we want to do that, I mean, that's certainly something that we could.
Yeah, my suggestion was just that we keep that in mind, that is our responsibility first, such that if we have someone in mind that we'd want to, be best probably to even refer them to the group themselves, for some kind of feedback.
Right.
Now, as far as the Audubon Library goes, I have no idea, so.
Well, and that's a co-appointment with Benton County, and if you saw that form in your packet, Benton County's already acted on that, so that one's a little different in that both councils approves the same, obviously the same person, because there's only one seat there, so. Okay, noted. Meeting dates, like I said, those are pretty much the same.
And what date? When is budget hearings? Did I?
The
Budget
bottom of
hearings?
Oh, it's in the agenda, I
That
think.
was,
Oh, it's in the agenda,
Oh, okay.
or in the packet, rather.
Because it's not on this sheet.
Oh, I thought it was
Oh,
previously.
it's
was
in the
from
one
last
from,
month.
and last month's
packet.
the three-column one that has
Okay, I have that in mind.
all the other due dates. I'm sorry. We do probably need to vote on the Audubon Library Board appointment, just to keep in line with what Benton County has already done.
Mr. President, I move to approve Robert Sloniger for Audubon County appointment as,
It's actually Michael Humphrey.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you got, yeah, I got into the same thing. I read that exactly the same way you
Oh,
did.
we, all right, well, I'm going to start that again. I move to approve Michael Humphrey to the Audubon Library Board.
Thank you.
Second.
That was,
I have a motion from Councilwoman Stonebreaker, seconded by Councilwoman Vernon, to approve the Audubon Library Board co-appointment with Benton County for Michael Humphrey. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Budget, Bob.
Yeah, a couple things. One, as far as for 2020, the DLGF has historically had us send in certain funds, and those are the ones we didn't do additional appropriations in the month of December because we had to send them to them, and they were supposed to respond back to us the approval, and so we didn't really have time for that. Now they have asked that all funds be sent in to them for approval. And so what I'm asking is, I think it might be wise, we could maybe be able to get some done, but to not have any additional appropriations in the month of December, because now we have to send in everything. So that's just something that we can talk about as the year goes on, but departments need to know if we can't do any additional appropriations for, certain things that, there may be some of them, like Jason's grant, that doesn't have to be approved by council. That's why it was in the consent agenda, so we can maybe do some things like that, but it does change things a little bit as far as, the general fund and cum cap, those kind of things. The property tax related ones were the ones that were sent in. Now they want everything sent in. So that's something we can talk about as the year goes on, yes.
So like the 3 that we did today with the jury fund and so you're saying ideally we wouldn't have any of that next December?
Yeah, just because we don't send in the jury pay fund right now, but now they're asking us to send that one in.
Okay.
So I'm not sure they're going to take action on it. They're going to come back and say approval for like the general fund one, so we maybe could do it. But anyway, it's just something to think about because that game has changed a little bit. The rules have changed a little bit starting with that. Now, the more important thing I wanted to talk about was this is part of the 1782 notice. We did just receive this for 2020. And this is, we every once in a while will mention a 16-line statement. This is a 16-line statement. That first fund there listed there just happens to be the Major Bridge Fund. The second fund is the one we want to talk about, and that's cum cap. And the state did not approve the full budget. When you look at this, and I didn't do a 16-line statement when we went through budget hearings, and maybe we could have caught this, there just wasn't enough cash and revenue to support the budget. The budget was like $1 million more than what the revenue estimate was, and we don't even have $1 million of cash in there right now. So they did cut that down by like $300,000 because we were over $3 million. That line 1C, the $2.795 million, that's what the state is saying our real budget is. We add in the tax caps, the 2.96 is the total including the tax caps. But the 2.975 million is what the state says we cannot have a budget that exceeds that, or that is what they have approved. So we need to make some adjustments to do that. So there's $287,165 that they did not approve. One thing that they said we could do to help a little bit would be to request that, back down over here, the operating balance. They have a $12,000 operating balance, and that would mean at the end of the year, you should have $12,000. This is making the assumption we spend all of the remaining 2019 budget, everything that we had outstanding, remaining budget on July 1, that we were going to spend all that. So it's really a little bit unrealistic. One thing we could do is you could cut that, make that $12,000 zero. That would take my 287, move that down to 274. Talking to the commissioners, they have come back and had some changes that I think we could leave the operating balance alone. We can just tell the state we're okay with this. There are two lines, and I'm not sure if I can remember exactly what Dave was telling me to change yesterday. The two ones with the little blacky arrows over here on the side, we lowered those some so that I get down here to the end. Now my budget is the $2,795,373 is what the state is saying that we can have. But I just wanted you to be aware of it. I'm not sure if you need to take any action on this because the state is telling us our budget cannot exceed that number. So we are forced to do it. But I want you to be aware of what that is. And Dave, do you want to say what those adjustments were? I didn't even write it down.
247, 340 on that one. We eliminated the 2 bomb suits. So that's $76,786 we took off of that, possibly with public safety, or we could be adding those back in. And then the 575, so we have 548, 273. We already took 100,000 that we've already did projects this year, so that already brought that back down. And then the cameras, the total bill for the cameras at the jail was $760,000. We paid $350 of that already, which drops it down to $400,000 or $410,000 still owed. So we had budget 460, we only owe 410, so we took another 50 off of that. So those how we brought those two numbers down.
So some of those are not really cuts, they're just money that's, bills that have been paid. Prepaid.
The easiest way to say it, and so that's how we brought those two numbers down to where they are. I know as much as Jason would love to have the new bomb suits and things like that, but I know we have a meeting afterwards to start talking about the public safety, and so this could be an item. And like I told Bob and I were sitting here talking, as we look at Cume Cap, if you look at insurance property, 200,000, insurance for vehicles, 90,000, insurance for liability, 165,000. That's general money in retrospect. If we can get those moved back to general, then Cume Cap's going to be sitting beautiful, really.
Because obviously now this is a fund we need to be watching because it just seems like over the years, Eda and Cume Cap, that's just kind of like the sugar daddy over there that we can just move things over there, and we really can't do that anymore.
Yeah, a lot of general's been coming into these two funds.
And why again was our budget request, why did they not approve our request?
It just going back to, going through their little 16-line statement, when you take,
The 2.5.
like, this is what they're saying is the budget, the 2795.
Right.
And then what they add to that is the expenditures from July 1 to December of this year, which that is everything that was budgeted and not spent by July 1. So they make assumption you're going to spend everything that we budgeted, and in Cume Cap, that's not the case.
Well, does this have anything to do with our effectively deficit budgeting, where we're budgeting at 97% or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure we really, in Cume Cap, you don't have hardly any salaries, and so we really don't look at that, but we are not going to spend it all. I mean, we obviously have monies in there, but when they're doing the 16-line statement, they make the assumption that you're going to use it all. It's not going to be the case. And then with the $20,000 additional appropriation, so then they're saying your total expenses of $4.8 million, when you get my cash balance of 1.7, I'll just like show over here on.
So if I understand that, it's basically they're saying, we think you're going to spend everything you have, and we're saying that we're going to keep money in that fund, and so we can use it next year. And they're saying you can't do that because we think you're going to use all your money. Yeah,
and we are not going to, that's how they do all of them. The general fund is done the same way. If you look over here, I'm on 3.8.
And so since we pulled in the 2020 budget more money, then that's led to this sifting back and forth.
Yeah. This is, I'll just get to the summary here. I've got, what we approved was $3 million. That's what we started with, $3 million. But we're saying the revenue is $2 million. So right there, we're taking $1 million off just by doing that. on June 30th, we had a cash balance of 1.7 million. Now, we're also, when you look here, the actual, I guess, that we did spend, so we are going to say that 900,000 is going to be coming off there. As far as, we only have $900,000 of revenue, but we got $1.8 million of expenditures when they're looking at the net budget compared to what we spent in the first half of the year. So the second half of the year, they would be at $1.8 million, $900,000 of revenue. And so then when you're saying you got $1 million more in expenditures for 21, it just doesn't come back and do the math. I don't think we're really hurting ourselves at all. It's just, some of it is just math and what they're going to approve. And
So is this a new thing? Because I would think that a capital development fund, you'd you'd be saving.
The purpose of a cum cap fund
is for capital development. So is that new that they're kind of using the same logic for general fund as capital development?
No, nothing is new. And I mean, we've historically, the idea of the cum part is to accumulate it. And
That's what I
so
was
that
thinking,
hasn't
yeah.
accumulated, like, because we've had some bigger projects, and so we've been accessing that. And for some of the things that we've moved in from the general fund that we historically had not had there. So this is just a fund that we need to watch because the cash balance is getting down, low. So, but hopefully with the lit public safety, we're going to be able to take some of the pressure off, put things back in the categories where they should be. And there's some things in here that you could pay for with lit public safety. Obviously, we got the police cars in there and that sort of thing that we could if we need to.
Any other questions for Bob? Thank you.
I don't know that they need to. I don't know that they need to take action on that if they.
I don't think so. Just make sure it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
Back to
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. So I think that's all I got.
Okay. I invited our county clerk, Julie Roush, to come today to give us an update on elections and equipment, whatever she'd like to tell us about.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
morning. So you all should have received Chairman von der Heidt's email concerning this. You all seen that? So the consensus still is that we are not looking into getting new equipment for 2020. We believe that our equipment is still highly functional, despite what you've read in the media. And we can give you facts on that if that's what you want. Chairman, would you like to add anything to that?
I submitted the email to give you some talking points and potentially to raise some questions and concerns and permit you to focus on what I consider the issues to be here. And I stand on my email. Certainly I'll go into detail if there's questions on that. But the board should be aware of, number one, there's been no votes lost in Tippecanoe County as a result of our equipment. The equipment works, it functions fine. There are a couple problems with the touchscreens. They're a little glitchy for a few people, very few people, but the process works, and we can rely on it for a number of at least several more years. And so I've indicated that I'm in no particular rush to obtain new equipment, in part because the existing equipment that is out there is what I regard as transitional. And we have been looking at other equipment, but we just see no need at this point in time to replace it. But that is on the horizon.
Right, and if I can add, the law that's passed that's saying that we must be VPAT certified, which means that the ballots need to be voter verifiable. We have a paper trail, but it is not a voter verifiable paper trail. This is a new law that's passed, so in Indiana, in order to sell or even market equipment, it has to be certified by the state, which is a long process. So what we are seeing now is machines that have been certified just recently. There hasn't been enough time our hope is that something else might come out within the year. What we're seeing is some of the machines out there are just basically piecemeal, like they've added just a printer to this old technology, and that's really not what we want. If we're going to spend a couple $1 million on something, we want what is right for our county. We don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and just go out and buy something for the sake of it. I already have a county that says they wish they had waited. They jumped and they got something last year, and our hope is that something new and better will come out. Now, if not, we are all still looking at equipment. That is what the future is. We're going to want new equipment. Like Randy said, it's the touch screen on some of the machines. What hadn't been done in the past was they weren't removed from service. When we find out that they are a little glitchy, we remove them from service. They need to be serviced, and those are being put out into a whole nother cage. And so hopefully the top of the equipment will go out in 2020. We did accumulate 43 new TSXs from another county that have not been used as much as ours. We did not pay anything for those, so that we have more to replace the ones we're removing off the floor, out of service.
I would add, council members know the public. You're out in the public. You know, I have a lot of friends and supporters, and just listen up. People are telling you there's problems, bring them to the election board.
Are there any questions
Any questions for Julie or Randy?
So what is the plan to get new machines? Because we know a couple things about our existing machines, right? We know we don't have a voter verifiable paper trail, right? So when people go and they cast their votes today, they have no proof that it's actually casting their vote the way that they think that it is.
They do have a summary that they have before they actually cast the vote, but to go forward, all of these things are going on in optical scan. What you're talking about is that they're having a vote, and then this paper is going into an optical scanner.
Right.
There's also barcodes that can be used. You can go as far to say that how do you verify that what's going in the machine is actually what you see on your paper? I mean, we can dig deeper into this. This is always going to be an issue. In fact, back in 2012, you had complaints that the majority of people wanted a DRE. Majority of people wanted DREs. The least amount of people wanted paper ballots. 4 years later, and there's the complete switch. They now want paper ballots. DREs are looked down the most. But the paper ballots that we're looking at today are going through optical scanners. Well, what people are saying is they still don't trust optical scanners, yet what we are looking at right now is paper ballots that go into optical scanners. If we're looking at everything about perception on what people think, we're never going to have the right decision because it seems to change every 4 to 6 years. What we need to do is base our decisions on facts. And the facts are our machines are highly functional. We've never had anybody that's cast a vote wrongly, and no one has ever complained that it was cast wrong.
But we acknowledge that facts are in the perception of the person that's making the observation. And so there's a few people who have had some problems. We have suggested there's a process to solve that right now. If they really want to vote on a verifiable paper ballot, we'll give them an absentee. Now, they have to think about that in advance because they have to ask for the absentee. And we hope people don't do that because it incurs additional expense that we think is unwarranted, but that's not our decision to make.
Looking back on this, I kind of put a check in my spirit about this. I believe the media kind of sensationalized some of this stuff before I made a little comment, which wasn't much, but I highly support the election board, and I think you're doing a great job. I think the equipment's all right, and then I know one of these days they're going to watch down legislation. They're going to change some of the rules, and maybe we'll approach things then. But I support the election board and the voting machines, and I feel confident that when the voter makes a vote, that it's being counted. So
at least in Tippecanoe County, that is not a problem.
No, I just feel that the media grabbed something right away and they sensationalized it.
So the state of the art is to have an auditable, voter verifiable paper trail. You're saying you don't believe that that is what Tippecanoe should be going towards?
No, I've already stated earlier that it is the future that we're looking into new
Okay, so
equipment.
when are we looking at having it? When is the future?
This year, we're still looking at machines. You know, our goal is to have a public day where everybody can come in and look what's available, but right now, there are only 4 vendors available. And all 4 vendors, our operating expenses for an election will go up because of what's available to us. Just this past election, it cost us $106,000. Next year, it's going to be a lot more. Now, add the new machines and the operational expenses that are going to go up because of that. We will need more people. We will need more space to store the machines that we have to buy. We have to buy new optical scanners as well, as have more paper available, more envelopes available. There's all kinds of expenses that will go up with this. We only have 4 choices. Our hope at 2021, I am really hoping that we would be able to get something.
Is there deadlines associated with the legislation?
So right now, you cannot buy, after this year, you cannot buy anything that does not have a VPAT. Now, every county that does not have a VPAT must have it by 2030.
Okay. And is this the unanimous opinion of the election board?
We haven't voted on that, Roland, but the issue is, and we talk about this issue quite a bit, and I believe it represents the opinion of the election board that we're in no hurry. We don't need to do anything, certainly, for next year. We're in good shape for next year, likely be the biggest election we've had in some time, and so we'll seriously be considering this in 2021. But even then, even if we don't replace it in 2021, the equipment that we have works.
And if I can just give you some facts of what's happened in the past and how our election is being perceived. Last year, we had a lot of issues with our e-poll books. A lot of people have misconstrued that to be our election equipment that takes the votes. That is not what happened. It was e-poll books. E-poll books are those things where you check in to make sure you are a voter and that you haven't voted before. We had lots of problems. We got new e-poll books this fall, and it was at no cost. They worked wonderfully. And there's some issues that learning, it was more operational errors that we had to learn, but it went really well, and IT even said this was the best startup they had had in years on the e-poll books. Now this year, my experience with the problems with the touchscreen election machines, there was 2 reported. 2 was reported to the media, 2 was reported to poll workers. That's all. And one of them in particular that I dealt with personally, there was no complaint before or after the gentleman that had voted that said he had an issue. And the poll workers all verified that he had trouble hitting the middle of the box. We're talking a very, very small amount of complaints. In fact, if you go back over, I think it's 4 years, you're talking 0.002% of complaints were made about the touchscreen voting machines.
So what's our plan for our larger election system, including those e-poll books? When's their replacement cycle look like?
Again, we're looking at 2021.
And it's also the opinion of the election board, including for the voter verifiable paper trail, but also the replacement of the e-poll books?
The e-poll books is not, that's something to discuss later. We just got new e-poll books.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just interested in, so this is the money. I'm looking at like the 5-year plan, right? So in terms of, and I fully support the funding, and I know we've started a new cumulative fund for the replacement of the election equipment, but certainly I want us to be looking forward to what's the replacement cycle on the e-poll books, what's the replacement cycle on the other materials.
My personal opinion, in 5 years, I'd like to have new e-poll books. There are some really phenomenal e-poll book. Well, there's one e-poll book that's I think is wonderful. It's not something we've talked with the board at this point, but when we do have the public day where everybody can come and test these, e-poll books will also be available to see.
Have you seen the new certified equipment yet?
Yes.
Okay. So then the election board has too? Has the election board?
Some of us did not attend because we were advised it would constitute a public meeting. And so, but several other members have. And we have seen some other equipment About a year ago, we looked at some equipment out of state.
Yeah, in Illinois, right? Or something,
Yes.
I remember that there was a plan at that time. So we're not considering that equipment anymore?
It was not certified by the state.
Okay.
I will voice that I liked particularly one of the machines, but it's not certified for Indiana use. But it was a real whiz-bang piece of equipment designed from the ground up. And so, it's the newest generation of equipment. But, it might be next year they'll have, instead of the I-11, they'll have the I-12 or 13. It's the same way in the election equipment world.
So it sounds like we're monitoring some of the other equipment that's not quite certified yet that might be a
Well,
good
you gotta be
fit for
careful.
us?
So we're not when we're in this state, we cannot talk about it. They can't market it, nothing. We would literally have to go out of state to look at what else is available or find something to read about it, but they can't come to us. Indiana, even though they're being very, very careful on making sure that what they're providing Indiana is secure and that it's good, it's a good product, we're left with only 4 because it's a stringent certification process.
And you don't like any of the 4 that are
This is
currently
my
available?
personal opinion. I wish there was something better. Like I said, the cost to operate will go up.
Lisa, eventually, we're going to be told, whether it be 2021 or 2022 or 2025, we're going to be told, here's the 4 to choose from. And we'll vet that. There'll be a process associated with it. And the public will be invited.
Yeah, and that's the plan for 2021 then, to have that process?
Not necessarily for 2021, I would hope to. Again, it depends on what comes to market.
But there's nothing
We're not real
current.
happy
There is
with
no
what we
plan.
see so far, so, we're not, we're not going to bring the 4 second rands or our equipment that we don't think is the best to the board for suggestions, so.
It feels like we're maybe talking past each other.
We-
The question of whether there's a plan or not,
I'll respond.
please.
Definitely is. 2021, we're going to seriously look at equipment.
So the plan is that we're gonna make a plan.
2021, we are going to seriously look at equipment.
The email that Chairman von der Heide has sent to us was sent directly to us, so I'm hoping that could be reflected in the minutes so that other people
We
could get
didn't
access.
receive it.
Oh, you guys didn't receive
No.
it? It was just to the council?
It must have been, I'm not.
Okay, yeah, because you guys
If
didn't
somebody
read
could
it.
send
Should
it
I
to me.
read it? Like, is that useful to people in the, no?
It's been sent.
I
Well,
don't think, at least I
Not to the
didn't.
Bob
public.
did not get it.
All
Yeah.
right.
If somebody could send me one, that's fine, we'll get.
I have an
Yeah.
extra, and you have an extra.
Just for people, it says, we don't expect any further consideration of replacing existing equipment for the 2020 election year. Existing equipment, including the 40 machines that we obtained from White County, will be adequate for the 2020 election. Further, it doesn't seem prudent to run the biggest election we've had with new equipment, even if money and installation of new equipment were available. The county eventually be obliged to replace voting machines, equipment that provides voter verifiable paper trail. The BER is in no rush to replace existing equipment for reasons including new voting equipment that is perceived as transitional/changing, and would be hoped that we obtain the latest version of equipment certified by the state. There's also an outside chance that such equipment could be funded, but at least in some part, though the state, through state or federal grants, the cost of new equipment is estimated to be $1.75 million based on Elkhart County. Existing equipment is accurate and functional. Some people have problems with touchscreens, and such as slow and temperamental occur in small minority cases. No one has accused the existing equipment of losing their vote. No voter has been disenfranchised. A very small but vocal minority of people are clamoring for new equipment now. It is expected that the election board will make it known that if a voter truly objects to using equipment, that they could use that they could vote on paper, quote, that using a traditional absentee ballot, that availability will involve some forethought on the voter's part. They have to request the absentee ballot and management issues. And it's with staffing, but the process currently exists. I invite council members and other public servants to be on alert for voter complaints. The BER perceives that the vast majority of Tippecanoe County voters are satisfied with the current voting process, particularly adoption of vote centers and the availability of early voting. Next year, early voting is expected to be more important to avoid lines and
and weight frequently encountered in the presidential election years. Naturally, it is recognized that this will be a process associated with further looking at alternatives to the county's existing equipment. I asked you to reply or call to set a time to meet if you have any questions about the voting process in Tippecanoe County.
Thank you.
You know, and there's something else I want to add. We have the Dominion product. There is nothing that the Secretary of State has offered for anybody that has Dominion product. I actually will be on a conference call with the Secretary of State this afternoon in which we will discuss, because monies have been given out to those that have Microvote. Microvote is a product where they were able to add a VPAT together, but here you're talking old technology, and then they add this very cumbersome, huge printer to it, and they received funding. So I'd like to find out too from the Secretary of State, well, what about those of us that have the Dominion product? Because no monies from the state have been given to us. I also want to add a little bit more to what Randy said about the planning. We are planning now. And one of those things is we do not have enough storage space at all. So we're already in discussion with other areas on somehow expanding that because we have no room. And being that we keep all of these machines locked up, you have to have a Republican and a Democrat in order to get in there. That storage facility is too small. So we've begun already planning ahead to what our needs are going to be. And like over the year, we're going to be looking at all of them, and I will have a report written on the pros and cons of each one that's available right now. And if something comes along next year, we'll add that as well to it.
And I would also say with the 1.75 number, I mean, I'm obviously a short timer on this board, but I would like to express support if the number is higher, that we continue to discuss what is needed in this county for us to have the equipment that we need in the ways that we need it, and also the staffing that we need to operate that equipment.
Other questions or comments? Julie, Randy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep us updated as things progress.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, before we do the commissioners, may I jump back here with a committee report? I think it needs to be.
Sure.
Okay, in the Romney Sewer, after 13 years, we've shifted gears and moved in a different direction. For legal counsel, we no longer have Stewart and Brannigan. We've moved on to Willard and Burns. So we're going to change streams on that. And another thing, we had 5 homes that we were trying to, that would not cooperate, so we condemned them. And I believe that Vonderheid's legal, we have 4 of them that's come forth, and they're going to join the program. So we still only have 1 home that the chief environmentalist is still working on, along with Vonderheid legal. So I just want to make that on record. Thank you kindly.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I heard that you said any public comments for things
Well,
on the agenda.
Patty, excuse me, just a minute. We'll get back to that. That was just about this agenda.
I have an agenda.
Okay, I'll get back to that in just a second. Mr. Byers, Commissioners, FYI.
Really not much. December 17th, Department Head Luncheon. So we'll be here in this building. Other thing is, for all the council members and anybody back here, if you see some little ornaments hanging there in our office, they have lists from each resident out the villa. So if you're willing to pull a list and put a little Christmas present together for everybody out in the villa, it's a really nice way to get to tell them thank you. So really, that's the 2 things I got.
Okay. Before we do public comment, Alana, please join me down here. As many of you know, especially if you either read the newspaper or on Facebook, we're losing one of our new members after just 1 year of service, but she's taken a new job, quite a promotion as I understand, but at Indiana University, so she'll be leaving us. So we have something for you, in appreciation and recognition of your valuable contributions to the citizens of Tippecanoe County while serving as a member of the Tippecanoe County Council in 2019 for a last member.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to Brian and the rest of the council. I felt when I This last year has been really exciting. I didn't really know what to expect on council, going from kind of being in the audience to being on it, but it's been a fabulous experience, and I've really been impressed by all the departments I've worked with and all the things that the county does, and I think it's just been a pleasure throughout, and I'm just really happy to have contributed to it.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Good luck in public comment.
Did it have to be Bruce?
Amber?
Just a quick update from the Extension Office. In the A&R program, Karen just had a 30 new Master Gardener interns complete their 16-week educational course, so she'll be kind of pulling them into their volunteer ranks. The 4-H enrollment deadline is January 15th, so we're really chugging along towards that. We have not heard any word on our open community development educator position, so I'll keep you guys informed as I hear more about that. And then please save the date for February 20th. That is our annual Extension Board dinner. You will be receiving actual invitations in the mail after the first of the year, but it will be at Judy's Catering again on the south side, 6:30. That's still up in the air, but February 20th is our Extension Board annual dinner. So thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Sorry for the misunderstanding. I heard you say that about agenda items, and it turned out it was an agenda item. I just wanted to go, Patty O'Callahan, 927 North Salisbury Street, West Lafayette, to go on record in support of having the best voter equipment that we can. It does seem strange to plan for it after a big election instead of planning to have it in place for a big election. I would also encourage as much early voting as possible. That was mentioned in Randy's email, that how early voting is important to keep lines down, and many places. Purdue is a great voting site, and I hope that will continue. And so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Any other public comment? Heather?
Hello, Heather Maddox, 1824 Benton Street, Lafayette. I actually have a couple comments, imagine that. So First, I'd like to address the voting equipment. I appreciate that there's a plan in place. As someone that has some experience in this, I'm saying this with all due respect. First of all, as you know, I think a lot of the election board. I'm a little concerned at some of the comments that it's only a few people. My concern is this: there's no lie that the equipment is almost 20 years old, and we know how equipment works. Electronic equipment does not last that long. Also, if it's only a few people only have enough trust in a system that they believe in. So how do we measure the people that aren't voting, or the people, we all know, we get there, we don't want to say we've messed up, and we walk away. I understand that's looking at a crystal ball and assuming, but while I would have liked to see new equipment this time, I understand the rush, and I do understand that the state plays a big part in putting a big barrier up to everybody, which I don't think is fair. However, I do look forward to you guys investing in the new equipment. I see that it's necessary. I was glad to hear 2021 because I panicked a little bit when I heard that it would be good for several years, because I just don't think that. I do have to say, I don't think that it calculates votes wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong that's been done with the calculation. Julie is correct. Anybody at any time can go in and look inside one of those machines, and while it's not a visible paper trail, there is a paper trail on every one of those machines. So I just want to commend you guys on looking forward to doing something finally about this voting equipment. So thank you, and the election board for their work on it as well. One more thing on that. I am a little disappointed that both co-directors aren't down here speaking on this, because I think they offer a perspective on this that would, you guys, everybody, even the public, would find valuable. poll workers too. I know they get the feedback from the poll workers and share, so hopefully in the future you guys will see Sean and Kelly down here at some point. Second point, put on a different hat now. The census is coming up next year. April 1st, 2020 is Census Day. I met with the commissioners a long time ago to kind of get a plan together for the county, and I know the city of Lafayette has put together a committee of about 20 people, business owners, United Way, some people, representatives from the county. So I think especially some of the things you guys have talked about today as far as grants, Jason, things like that. We know how important census data and accurate census data is to all that. There's $675 billion annual federal dollars at stake for this census. So it's really important that we get a complete and accurate count. Every member of our community, it is a head count, is a valuable member of our community and deserves to be counted. So you guys, people in the audience, can just start spreading the word as the census is approaching, how important it is for everybody to fill that out. They are able for the first time to go online and fill it out this time. So about March-ish, you'll probably see it on the TV and everything, and I know the commissioners will do a wonderful job of getting the word out. You'll get a post, but those if you live in a home, you'll get a postcard that says, hey, you can go online and fill this out now. It takes about 10 minutes, very easy to do. And just kind of spread the word to people. Hey, have you filled your census form out yet? It's easy. We really depend on it for getting things done in our community. And so that's just a way that everybody can help. Another exciting thing is there are jobs associated with this. So yes, they are the people that are going to go door to door and say, Bob, you've not filled out your form yet. We need you to fill that out. But they are part-time jobs. They've just raised that wage to $18.50 an hour. You do it from home, and it's easy to apply. You go to the census website, 2020census.gov/jobs, fill it out online, and even though it's April, it's a great job for people that need a second income, students, anybody's, retirees. So it's kind of spread the word about that too, because obviously we want the jobs in our community, and we want neighbors counting neighbors. So that's really it. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions for Heather? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important. Any other comments? Anything else that needs to come before the council in 2019? Not only today, but the rest of the year. Hearing none, there's one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thanks.
Hey, Bob, can we just stay in here?
There's a discussion about when we're going to have our public safety meeting.
I was going to say I didn't get an invite.
There's a meeting to have a meeting. So
I got to go, so.
Well,
Yeah, we're just staying